Hello, this is Gabriel again, and we are here for the last sub-step of step 1, designing your Moti journey. And here we will describe how we create teams and circles for the Moti survey. So indeed, this is the last step to designing your Moti survey, your Moti journey. So now imagine a classic organogram. Here you have a unit with a unit manager in the darker shade of blue and 5 team members. And let's pretend that we have five other of these units. And these unit managers in the darker shade of blue all report to a department head. And so you have a typical organogram here. And so Moti can adapt to any type of organogram as long as you have enough respondents in each team that you will be creating. So the obvious thing to do here is to decide that every unit, so say these units here, correspond to one team. So you have 6 units, 6 teams. In each team, you have just the right number of people to do a Moti survey. So the team members in the lighter shade of blue will respond to the survey, and when asked about their supervisor, they will be talking about the supervisor in their team supervisor. Now what happens is that logically the team supervisor should not be responding to the survey, because they can't really self-assess their listening skills and things like that. It would be pretty meaningless. So what you would do would be to create a management team, and that management team includes the 6 unit managers and the department head, if this is a department. And so you now have 7 teams. And thanks to the circles feature, you can actually compile all the results from these 7 teams into one circle that would include the results of the 7 teams. So the average scores of everybody who responded to the survey, including the unit managers, because they respond to the survey that was sent out by the department head. So that's one way of understanding a team and a circle. Now, another way of doing this, and same logic, just a different example, is imagine you have 5 teams of volunteers. Here you have them on the left, and you have 3 teams of staff. Now, you can use the circles feature to group the teams by their branch. So here team ABC works in branch 1, and team X and Y works in branch 2. And so the circle will aggregate the results of these teams in the appropriate circle. And in the same way, team D and E would be grouped into staff branch 1. You can go one step further and create a parent circle that would include the 2 circles, from branch 1 and branch 2, of volunteers. And in the same way, you can group all the staff in the National Society into a parent circle called National Society Staff All Branches. Now, we did it this way because we know that the volunteering profiles of staff and volunteers are quite different. And we'll probably get into that in another video. But just trust me on this. It's difficult to compare volunteers with staff when it comes to autonomy or belonging or competence or in motivational outcomes. So it's best to keep the volunteers together as long as possible and the staff together as long as possible. And you want to compare staff with staff and volunteers with volunteers. But in the end, you might want to have a general idea of how everyone is feeling in all the branches. And so you just create another parent circle that includes the 2 parent circles, National Society All Volunteers and National Society Staff All Branches. You can also compare volunteers from different activities. So, you can imagine that volunteers working in ambulance services, especially in countries where you have tensions and conflicts, you know, the motivational outcomes of these volunteers in ambulance services might be different from those that are engaging in first aid training, say in schools. You would imagine that the ones working in ambulance services are under more pressure, under more stress, and are more likely to burn out than those working in first aid training. And so, say you have in the different branches, you have 3 teams working in ambulance services, and you have 2 teams working first aid training. Well, you don't really worry about the branch itself and where they are. You're more concerned about comparing volunteers in different ambulance services and then volunteers working in first aid training, and then you can compare what's comparable, and you can compare teams working in ambulance services with teams working in ambulance services. That's in the parent circle, ambulance services, and you can also compare the 2 circles, ambulance services with the first aid training. And to do this, you could then create a parent circle including all the services, and you would be just comparing these 2. So yes, absolutely, we have finished step 1 in designing your Moti journey, and so the next series of videos will be running your Moti survey. That will be step 2. So I'll see you then, and have a great break if you've been watching all these videos in one go.